I think a materialist approach to things is very, very consistent with my experience in Christian social justice.
I feel like the deeper I get into anarchist practice, the deeper my faith is getting at the same time.
I would hope that, securing means of life for all would be something all people of faith would say, oh yes, that's at the basis of what we believe.
And those who are most marginalized know the most about the true, the good, and the beautiful.
To me, it's less that I think building class solidarity is a bad thing, as much as it seems like if you don't attend to things like anti-Black racism, that's always going to get in the way of building class solidarity, actually.
And when you go back, you find that a lot of revolutionary grassroots participatory movements, the precursors to what you could call the barrio assemblies and these grassroots neighborhood organizations, a lot of these were sponsored by the church.
What does it mean to say that the Christian tradition is internally contradictory and there are antagonisms there and you're always being faithful to some aspects and betraying other aspects?
Welcome to the Magnificast, a podcast about Christianity and leftist politics. I'm Dean Detloff. I'm a PhD student at the Institute for Christian Studies in Toronto.
And I'm Matt Bernico. I teach media studies at Greenville University in Greenville, Illinois.
It's the Big Hundo, the big 100th episode. Long time coming. 100 weeks in a row that we've been doing this, which is too many weeks, I think.
I'm so surprised that we've never really missed one.
Yeah, 100 consecutive weeks is a lot of weeks.
It's so many weeks, actually.
It kind of feels like 100 weeks, but then on the other hand, it feels like I've never done anything for 100 weeks. It just feels like 100 weeks is too many weeks. I don't know. Too many weeks to think about.
Yeah, a lot of weeks. Hey, but we did it. That's 100 hours of Magnificast you can listen to. Think about all the times we've said, Think about it. Think about all the us we've said. Probably a lot. Probably 100 per episode, really.
Yeah, that's right. 1,000 us.
Cool. Yeah, well, we're here. So in this episode, we asked you all for questions. We asked you all for your theology questions that we could answer and goof on. And listen, you guys sent some that we could actually answer, and that's fun.
Also sent some that we super cannot answer, and we
my gosh,
won't try.
Some people asked the hardest questions.
They were good questions, just not questions that we're qualified to actually address.
We're not qualified for much.
Yeah, I mean, I should qualify that by saying we're not qualified to answer any of these, but we will try in our Magnificast branded way.
We'll give it our best shot. Hey, well, anyways, thanks for listening to this podcast for so long. Thanks for giving us money on Patreon, all you Patreon folks. It's been a wild ride, and I guess we're gonna keep on doing it. I don't know. There's no reason to stop.
Yeah, we're not quitting now anyway. Maybe 150. We'll revisit that. We'll see.
At 150, that might be season 1, and we'll just take a long nap.
Yeah, that's right. And then we'll catch up in real time later when we reboot the Magnificast.
Magnificast 2. This time, it's not Magnificast 1.
Still doing it.
Still doing it. All right. Well, Dean and I decided that before we get to the user questions, we thought we would go back all the way to the very beginning of the Magnificast, where it all started, where Dean and I met for the first time, reddit.com/r/Christianity. And we would take their questions first, kind of like, you got to pay your debts, Well, I mean, you don't have to pay your debts because debt is bad. But in this sense, we're going to pay sort of our dues. We'll pay our dues, not our debts. That's fine. We'll pay our dues here in the sense that this is kind of where we came from, and we want to give back to the community that birthed this beautiful relationship that we have. So we've gone through our Christianity, and we've pulled out what I think are the most pressing and important questions, the most important theological questions, or sort of like Christian culture questions of the day. And we're just going to kind of do a quick rundown of the big ones here. So Dean, do you want to kind of address the first question on the list here?
Yeah, sure, I will. However, I'll say one more thing about the format here. So Matt and I spent a very absurdly long time last night late into the night, searching these, just trolling our Christianity to find these questions. And some of them we shared with each other, and boy, were they very good. But some of them we also kept to ourselves to share later. So let's first talk about the ones that we already shared with each other, because I'm still thinking about them. They're real mind puzzles, and I want to throw the first one at you and see if you came up with any new solutions between last night and tonight. So here's the first one. I'm moving out soon, and I was trying to figure out how I want to set everything up in my bedroom. I was wondering if it would somehow be wrong or relatively incorrect, religiously speaking, to place a katana and a crucifix on the same wall. So, Matt, is it fine? Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think it actually just makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense from the vampire hunting perspective, in the sense where, like, that's the wall that the vampires can't get to.
That's true.
Because the katana's there, and that's, like, you know, so you can cut their heads off. But the crucifix is there so that they can't touch the katana. It's kind of like it's just a really good plan if you live in sort of a vampire-infested area.
Yeah, so I guess it's permissible if you live in Transylvania, but you should probably seek the permission of your bishop first, I guess. All right, throw me this next one here.
All right. Okay. It's hard to even read it, actually. Okay, so this one's tagged with the word serious before it, so you know it's not a joke question.
Yeah, I button the top button on my shirt. I'm ready.
Yeah, button it all the way up. Here's the question. Is it disrespectful to pray on the toilet? And then the body of the post goes like this. I've been wanting to pray and read the Bible more to become a better Christian, but my biggest flaw has always been very little self-control. I find it difficult to manage time. Yeah, I find it difficult to manage time and keep schedule with anything, especially prayer, because I feel forces of darkness are at work in my life. That was just the Taco Bell you ate for lunch. I was thinking of making a habit of praying every time I go to the bathroom. Would this be considered poor practice? So, Dean, yeah, is it though?
It is really hard to say. Is it disrespectful to pray on the toilet? Well, on the one hand, I want to say no, because God's everywhere. What are you going to hide? That's in the Bible, right? I'm pretty sure that's a verse. God's everywhere. What are you going to hide? But also,
not your butt.
Not your butt, for sure. And, well, I guess in addition, the Bible's a very good, like, Big John's bathroom reader type of book. So you could just slide it in there in the old magazine tray. On the other hand, it is hard, I feel like, to give your full concentration to one or the other task here, and that is my biggest concern.
Okay, I can see that. One user comments back and says, nope, would your dad be offended if you call out to him while on the loo? And listen, as a dad, this happens to me a lot, and yeah, I'm kind of mad about it, actually. Lewis, it's fine. Just go to the bathroom.
Keep it to yourself. Say thanks afterwards. All right, fair enough.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So let me throw you this third one, just the preemptive ones that we found yesterday. And then we can give each other these sweet gifts that we wrapped. All right. So the title of this one goes, I think I sold my soul, ... So over the summer, I was super depressed. I couldn't sleep because of it. I had no one to talk to, so I tried texting my ex, and it was obvious she didn't like it. But I began to kind of have a crush on her, which really didn't help anything, I'd say so. She avoided talking to me, so I kind of gave up. But then I thought to myself, I wish I could have her. I want to sell my soul just to date her. I didn't think much of it,
but 4 months passed by. No, you didn't.
4 months passed by, and she's texting me out of the blue. You gotta wait for the empirical evidence here. She's texting me out of the blue. We talked for a couple months, and she asked me out 2 months after, so now we've been dating for 1 month, and I'm just really concerned if I actually sold my soul.
No, you didn't sell your soul.
Yeah, but listen.
This doesn't...
The wish was made and apparently granted. So the question is, was the payment also charged to his metaphysical deposit bank?
So here's the problem I have with this. First of all, the first person that responded to this, God bless him, said, you didn't because that's not a thing, which I appreciate that. That's that one good, responsible Reddit user out there. Hey, but the actual answer to this question is no, you didn't sell your soul because that's not how you do it. There's a whole other sort of situation that you have to go through. You got to go down those crossroads. You got to get some dirt from the graveyard. You got to bury a chicken bone or something.
You got to bring your guitar. You got to have big ambitions to becoming the world's most famous pop star.
That's right. That is, wow. Yeah. You got to be John Mayer as part of it, I think.
That's true. I think you're right about that. That explains the horns that he's always got at all his concerts.
Yeah, I mean, my problem here isn't that that you can't sell your soul. I'm just saying that like it's more complicated than just like wishing it. That's ridiculous.
Okay, I can buy that. I can buy that it isn't true because of the low effort made.
All right, well, good. I'm glad that we can agree on that. That wasn't what was going to tear us apart here at episode 100.
I'm not going to storm off after this one. All right. So we've each found a few questions on our own and hidden them away like squirrels. And today's the day. Well, it's probably a bad metaphor because there's actually a horrible blizzard in Toronto right now. But throw them at me. What do you got?
We hid them under a bushel. We hid these under a bushel.
That's right. That's right. And now
we're gonna let them shine. Yeah. Okay. So here's mine for you. This is the gift I've got you, and I think that you're gonna really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So the question on Our Christianity goes, what does the Bible say about going to prom? Can Christians go or not?
Oh no. What does the Bible say about going to prom? Well, Jesus went to prom
can you think
that
of
once.
Any verses or?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
He went to prom, and that's where he had the first miracle.
That was the Gospel of Thomas, I believe.
It was the Gospel of Promise.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you can go. You can go.
That's what the Bible says. All right, let me hit you with another one. Lightning round. Can you cast spells with Christianity besides prayer? Okay. A little more detail here. Prayers pretty much work like white magic. It allows you to speak with God in order to do stuff. Is there any way I can use spells that isn't occultic in nature? And here's the important part. I used to be a wizard in the occult, so my wizard ways come out every once in a while.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you gave me the extra bit there at the end. If you already classed yourself as a wizard, then yes, you can also cast spells because you've already got the mana. It's like, why not use it?
But besides prayer is the real question here. Can you cast spells with Christianity besides prayer?
Prayer doesn't use any mana. It's just like the spells do, but prayer is just like anyone can do that part.
That's true. That's true. A good free cast. Very generous on God's part.
Prayers are cantrips, spells, they do have slots. So there you go. So how about this one, Dean? This one, it's a big one. It's a big question.
Yeah, okay.
A real moral and ethical question for the teens these days.
All right, I'm ready.
The title is just Vape Help. So God gave me a dream where I realized that vaping isn't a sin.
Just like Peter got that dream about all that food he's allowed to eat.
That's right. It's exactly like that, actually. However, when the Bible says to repent, it doesn't always mean from sin. I don't know what that means. God repented many, many times. So do you guys think it's a... Oh, my God. So do you guys think that the practice of vaping would keep me out of my spirit? Keep the Holy Spirit away from me? Not a sin for sure, but a lust of the flesh/spirit, most likely. What do you think?
Here's what I think.
The end of that question.
I think that, okay, you're enjoying that peaceful slumber. You just said your prayer spells on the toilet, and now you've got a well-earned good night's sleep. And in the middle of that sleep, all of a sudden, you see this vision of a blanket coming down, just loaded with vape fluid. And at that point, who's to say no? That's my big question. I think the vision really trumps it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Some people might think of vaping as unclean, but no, it's, you know what? I'm sure it's just fine. There's a lot of other things in this question that are really, I don't understand, so I'm not even going to touch those, but I do love that. I just love the premise of God gave me a dream where I realized that vaping isn't a sin. It's like the beginning of a magical realism story, and it's about to get very good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to hear the next chapter of that one for sure. All right, let me toss you this one. This is a very, very challenging and difficult one, so I understand if you need to take a pause, but let me just set it up. Here's the title. Does seeing aliens in an ancient alien's way put you alongside the unforgivable sin? All right, now here's the explanation. Jesus is said to have given the Pharisees a lesson in the unforgivable sin after they lowered him to the level of Satan or man and beasts to make him look bad. I don't know if you've got a Bible handy, but maybe you could just find that story. So if someone believes in the Father or Son, but on that basis, it all boils down to extraterrestrials, are they in that territory? So just to bring you back to the main question here, does seeing aliens in an ancient alien's way specifically put you alongside the unforgivable sin?
I don't understand about 90% of that question. But I'm gonna say yeah. I think it does. Yeah, if you saw some aliens out there and they were building a pyramid, for example, yeah, you're kind of done for. I think.
Yeah, but it's in an ancient aliens way is the key, really.
Yeah, like the thing is, you think that they're in a chariot in the sky, but actually it's a spaceship. And yeah, you're done. Sorry, that's it.
Too bad.
Yeah,
I guess you're destined for hell. That's rough.
Yeah,
it's a rough fate.
You know, our Christianity is actually only it's about 90% questions about aliens. So Dean, here's your turn at aliens.
Wait. Before you get there, can I just say this question was asked 20 days ago. It was asked in the year 2019. Anyway, okay, we can move on. Go ahead and hit me with that new one. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, this one's aged to perfection 5 years ago, so it has some good oaky notes to it. So this is the question, and you gotta wait till the end because there's a good twist. If we met an alien species that we could communicate with, would there be any biblical laws preventing us from marrying them? I know the Bible condemns bestiality, but I don't think this would qualify. So, yeah, what do you think about this question?
Oh boy, it's a really good question. Are the aliens animals? I guess that would be the real question. Are they beasts?
But so counterpoint, you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, you know. So
yeah, but they might not
who's
be
to
mammals.
say? Oh, that's
they might
true.
Be lizard people.
So if they're lizard people, is it bad then?
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to. What do they have, scales or fur? Do they? Well, no. There's other qualifications of being a mammal. Do they give a live birth, and do they also lactate? If so, I think you're golden.
Yeah. The comments to this question are extremely concerning, where people are citing, as you can probably imagine, that well, at one time, marrying someone of a different race was, viewed as sort of sinful by the Bible, and that's bad because they don't understand what race is like. But okay, hey, I don't even want to know the answer to this question.
No.
I think it's good keeping it sort of a mystery,
Yeah, I think that's good. That's probably the best idea. All right, well, let me toss you one last one just to keep on this alien theme.
Okay.
So I want to ask you this because I just feel like it's really good to have an outsider's perspective. And the question is, does the Pope have to be human? Now I've got my own, thoughts here, but I just figure as a good Protestant, maybe you might be able to shed some light. So the question goes on to say, I'm not Catholic and I don't mean any disrespect. Perhaps I've been hanging around our futurology too much. But following on from the thread asking about a female pope, what would the Catholic position be on having an android pope, or an alien pope, or a disembodied AI pope? There are a number of other hypotheticals, but I feel like that's probably a pretty good way to start.
Okay, so I thought this was going to be a question, like a conspiracy theory kind of question about, like, what if aliens are the pope and, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they took it in the direction of AI or something is very fun. Yeah, I think the pope might be better if the pope would be AI.
The robo-pope.
I mean, the robo-pope, yeah. I guess it would be better.
All right, let me throw a wrench in here, though.
No, I don't. Yeah, go ahead, please.
The same question asker goes on to say, presumably it's okay for an android to convert to Christianity. However, is there any way they could waterproof their circuitry? Do they really want to get baptized?
I'm sorry, there's an android that's a Christian?
Well, presumably it's okay for an android to convert to Christianity. But the real hang-up here... Why would you
presume that?
Well, it's just presumable. I mean, you could just presume it all you want. But the real question is, can they get wet? Can they get Jesus wet?
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, though, is that... Because they would have to if they want to get baptized, so that's true. But also everyone knows that the Pope does love a good water park. And if they're not going to get wet, like, what's the point of even being a Pope? It's part of the job responsibilities, is going in the slides.
That's true.
And in the wave pool.
That is true. That is a very important part of the Pope's job description. All right, why don't you toss me one last one, and we can answer some real listener questions here.
Okay, hang on. I just closed all of mine.
Perfect. That's a good metaphor for all 100 of these episodes, actually.
Yeah. Just 1 second here. Oh no. Where did all of them? Where they all go?
Hopefully to hell, where they all belong.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, here's the final our Christianity question. Question: how should a Christian view anime or the medium in general? Hello! That's how it starts. Like they address this like it's an email or like a public address. Hello, I'm someone who used to have an unhealthy obsession towards the medium anime until the Holy Spirit convicted me to stop watching it on my own personal leisure.
All right, okay.
How should we view this? I'm not saying every anime is bad and you should stop watching it. However, in my personal experience, some of the anime has affected me mentally in some way, even down to the subconscious level. Okay. Causing a shift in my behavior and how I think. Some of the things I had with it allured me to continue watching it, that I just wanted to fit in with others. This is a wild, long sentence. Okay, so anyways, hopefully this might open some eyes to some that have been through similar situations. So, how should Christians view anime or the medium in general? When I first read this question, I thought it was like, how should they watch anime? Like, how should Christians view it? Like, should you just like watch on your computer? But no, they mean how should you understand anime as a sort of conceptual piece of media?
Yeah, boy, that is a really tricky one, isn't it? Because there's so many kinds of anime. You got those vampire hunting animes. Those are a little dicey. Sometimes they get a little churchy, and you don't know what's gonna happen. You got those big robot animes. Those are probably fine. After all, one of them could be Pope.
There's nothing stop, presumably, at least.
I really think this comes down to how many tentacles are in each episode. I think that is really the key.
Think about that Castlevania. Have you seen Castlevania on Netflix?
No.
It's a very anti-Christian sort of show.
Well, that's probably why I don't watch it. You know me.
Yeah, that's true. Many priests do get killed in it by Dracula. Yikes. So I think if Dracula's in it, no, don't watch it.
Yeah, you don't want to contribute to his whole thing. You don't want to contribute to the celebrity of Dracula. You don't want to glorify that kind of violence.
But if you find yourself slipping and you do watch the good Dracula anime, make sure that you do have a katana on your wall with your crucifix. That's going to help you out a lot. Hey, the comments in this question are so frustrating because this person's like, hey, maybe I shouldn't watch anime is kind of what they've understood about their life, which is, I mean, good.
Yeah,
fine. Good for you if you're self-reflective enough to do that. But then everyone in the comments is like, I like Naruto. Wow, cool. Have you ever seen Cowboy Bebop? And it's just like people talking about how much they like this anime. You guys, if you cause someone to stumble, I mean, just get that millstone out here.
Bad news. Don't do that. Well, anyway, that was probably a lot funnier at like 1 a.m. last night, but I do enjoy just a quick romp through how completely bizarre the world of Christianity actually is.
Yeah, man, it's wild that I haven't been on that website for, I don't know, a few years probably.
Yeah.
And it's not changed even a little bit. It's exactly how I left it.
Yep, it's true. Tells you something about Christianity, I guess.
It's always bad, and they're always concerned about aliens.
That's true. I am too. I was just saying to Emily the other day that aliens are my only things in movies and stuff that I'm genuinely afraid of that keep me up at night.
Why? What's so scary about aliens?
I don't know. She asked me that too, and I told her I just had all these nightmares about aliens when I was a kid. Now she's convinced I've been abducted, and who knows? Maybe I have.
Ooh, yeah, man. Probably not, but you never know.
Yeah, but maybe. I mean, I'm still afraid of them, so who knows?
Presumably, you could have been.
Presumably, I could have been is exactly right.
Hey, so how about some real questions from real people?
Yeah, okay.
Not like these fake people on the internet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's go through some of these. So we did think about them. We chatted about them a little bit last night, and we tried to determine a few that maybe we could really give some insight on. I don't know, it's kind of bizarre. We decided to do this theology episode because people are always asking us to talk about theology, and we resisted a lot, I think, because neither of us are A, trained theologians, and B, don't really have I don't know. Well, I'll just speak for myself. I don't really have the attention span to get nitty gritty into theology questions, which is not a dig on theology. I mean, that's what people do, and that's cool. Just not my jam. Not something that gets me pumped.
If you don't have the attention span for it, then I doubly don't.
But we're gonna go at these anyway. I feel like there should be a disclaimer at the beginning of this of I don't know, don't try this theology at home, or not trained professionals. Basically, yeah, whatever they showed at the beginning of a Jackass video, but it's for theology. Don't
Oh man,
don't be like Steve-O.
What's the theology question where we're gonna go into our parents' house and wake them up with a loud noise?
Yeah, that's all right. We'll find out here. When one of our parents just sits up right now in the middle of the night and it's like, what is my child doing? Then we'll know.
Okay, cool. Hey, so the first person that sent us questions, should we say their names? Sorry, we should have talked about this.
Yeah, we
Is it
probably
okay
should have.
to do
No,
that?
let's not do it. They'll know who they are.
You know who you are.
Listen, we're not
the
saying
first
it because
person-
we didn't get your permission, so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. So the first set of questions we have, somebody sent us a whole mess of them that are really good questions, and a few of them we've editorialized them for sure because we took out some that we just thought like we definitely couldn't answer, but we did leave in the ones that we thought we could. So here's the first one that someone has submitted to us. How do we deal with the concept of hell? And then they go on to say, I can't reconcile the concept of a God who punishes some people for eternity with the liberative God I believe in. So, good cue. Dean, go ahead and answer that one for us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that softball right off the bat. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So, what about hell, though?
Yeah, how do we deal with the concept of hell? So, this is actually a good question. I think interesting because it is so foundational to so many forms of Christianity, and not all of them, but so many people, I think, are formed by even how they like view hell and understand themselves and other people related to it. So, yeah, at least for me anyway, like I came from a really conservative form of Christianity, of evangelicalism in my teens. I like snuck out of Catholicism and hung out there for a little bit before I snuck back in. And yeah, I think it was like really determinative for my consciousness in a nasty kind of way because I thought like everybody was going to go to hell and it was my job to help them not. And I also had this problem. How can you reconcile the concept of a God who punishes these people forever with the idea of a God who's like really loving and maybe also liberating? And it's hard to say. I think for a long time I was very attracted to ideas of universalism because I thought it kind of got me out of certain uncomfortable ethical stance. So the idea was like, yeah, as hard as it is, I guess everybody just goes to heaven. And I have a professor here at the Institute for Christian Studies named Nick Ansel who wrote a really amazing book called The Annihilation of Hell, which is probably like the coolest book I ever read about it, even though it's very hard to read. But these days, I'm kind of coming back around to the idea of hell. I don't really know if I don't know like how to characterize it as a place or whatever, but having hell as one thing in kind of your like rhetorical toolbox, I think is kind of helpful when you think about oppressed peoples and situations that are genuinely bad. Because, like, if you can't really have justice in this world, and you can't really have a certain, at least, amount of punishment in this world for the people that are genuinely ruining it and, like, destroying people's lives, then the only hope you could have is maybe for an afterlife. I feel like I've sort of split the difference with, like, purgatory in my life. I appreciate that doctrine a lot, because the idea is everybody kind of just has to, like, have a little bit of a bummer period, and some people have a longer one than others, and then you get out. Maybe that's how I'm most comfortable splitting the difference. But yeah, I don't know. How do we deal with it? I think there's kind of a lot of different reasons, but the biggest question is to ask, like, who's going there and why? I don't know. What do you think, Matt? What's your relationship to hell like?
Yeah, it's actually a really wild question because I was, like, reflecting on this a bit before we started talking, and the moment in my life where I started asking, like, big questions about hell, I think was the moment in my life where I started to become, I think, a radicalized person, or at least started thinking about politics in a lot more meaningful ways. Not that it was like good or anything, but that's just like maybe it was a moment where I thought about some big ideas in my life that I never thought about before. So like I remember being in an undergrad class on the philosophy of religion, and we were reading St. Anselm, and it's not great in retrospect actually, but I don't actually know if I can even judge if it's not. It just wasn't fun to read. I think is what I mean. But anyways, thinking about St. Anselm and the problem of evil was like this huge moment for me where I was like, well, I don't think actually if God is like absolute good, and the absolute good thing has to exist or else it's not good. Like if that's the case, then like I can't actually believe in hell because that would mean that God isn't as good as I can imagine. So like for me, that was like this huge moment where I was like, well, I guess I'm a universalist, and all of these kind of things came with it. And that universalism, to me, I think started me down this path of like, I think political liberalism, like in like a good way, and that I think that ended up leading me towards anarchism and Marxism eventually too. So for me, like universalism was like this moment in my life where I stopped. It was just like a good way for me to step away from like very conservative types of theology that had very conservative types of politics too. So it's like weird because like on the one hand, I think that I don't know. If I really asked myself, if I really had to answer this question, I probably don't really believe in hell. But the sort of the thing that you set up though makes sense to me. Like if people can't get justice in this life, maybe the next, maybe purgatory exists. I don't really know. I mean, I'm a Protestant, so I have no idea.
So you'll be there.
I have no
longer,
idea
is what
about
you're trying to say.
Yeah, the most I know about purgatory is what I've seen in the show Supernatural, and I don't think that's right. But that's also, but it is my favorite thing about purgatory is that it is where all the werewolves live. So that is what I do like about purgatory.
Yeah, that's good.
And that theology.
I think that's right. That is in the Catechism.
It's in there, huh?
Yeah, cool. I will say this,
and Sam and Dean are there. So it's fine.
That's right. I am. I will say this: there's no like singular tradition of hell in the Christian tradition that is like the single one. I think that's really important.
Totally.
Like Christianity is like a really weird thing that has had a lot of lives and a lot of long lives and a long history, and not everybody believes the same thing all the time. And I think that's just a really also very important thing, because hell, like in the hands of reactionaries, it does obviously become a way to keep you in line. And to stop you from asking certain questions, like, like when I was a conservative evangelical, it would be like, well, you can't think about like viewing LGBT people as having any real legitimacy in like your church life because they're destined for hell anyway. So like, you got to get them through the Jesus door before you do anything else. And that is exactly the kind of question that stops you from ever like thinking twice about, whether or not Jesus actually would, see another human being as a regular human being before like consigning them to some weird pastor's vision of like what heaven is like or what hell is like. So that's something worth emphasizing anyway.
Yeah, it's good. I also remember so I think when I was like maybe a senior in college or maybe right after I graduated, the whole like Rob Bell Love Wins thing happened too. Mm-hmm. And that covers that colors so much of how like I think I understand that conversation about like hell or universalism in a bad way, because I don't really I feel like when that conversation was happening I was also kind of over the idea too, so it was just like just kind of like makes the whole thing seem tedious to me as well.
Yeah, same. I was living in Grand Rapids at that time, and I went a couple times to Mars Hill, his church, while that book came out, and it was something else. All right, we got to get through some of these other ones. Let me ask you this one. Do you think that when we participate in a mass or church service that is ideologically conservative, are we on some level reifying these beliefs by participating in them?
So this is such a weird question. Well, it's not weird. It's actually a very good question. I guess I just think I know how to answer this one. So the answer is yes and no, I think. So if you go to a church and you participate in mass or a church service, if you're a Protestant, I love that it's either mass or just service at a church, because Protestantism is so weird. So if you go to one that's ideologically conservative, then are we on some level reifying those beliefs? I think, yeah, that's probably true. On some level, we are reifying those beliefs, because it just like bodies and seats legitimates something being the case, right? Like, I remember going to like some very small in conservative churches who like very proudly report that they had like 73 attendees this week or something. Or even I remember like growing up, the church I went to throughout my youth, they would lose their minds because at Easter they had 500 people come. So it's like, in the sense of just being there, it does reify the conservative agenda or the conservative ideology that's going on behind the scenes. On the other hand, though, I think this is a theological term I do know, so this is cool. I think that if you take this too far, though, it might be a type of like Donatism, where it's like the church isn't pure enough, so you can't really do the Christian worship type stuff that you need to do at that church. Like, if you wouldn't want to say just because a church is ideologically conservative, or you hear a really bad sermon from a pastor, that like the Eucharist doesn't count there, or that baptism doesn't count there. That would be a mistake, because that would mean that those Christian things, the parts of like the service or mass, are on the side of the people that work in that church, not on the side of God that performs those things. So there. I don't know. Is that right, Dean? Did I do it right there?
That sounds right to me. I mean, I go to Catholic church, so I hope just being there isn't completely and totally reifying the conservatism of the church.
Right.
So yeah, I agree, 100%. You knocked it out of the park.
Oh boy. I'm so glad. Okay, so here's this one. This is a very interesting question too that I think I have some feelings about. So
Yeah, okay.
It goes like this. What are your thoughts on the necessity of attending a church in order to have a rich Christian faith? Do you feel that something other than an institutional/literal church counts as, quote, church? I can't really think of any examples besides maybe something cheesy like hiking with your friends or volunteering. Those are nice things, though.
Mm-hmm.
They're cheesy, but nice. So what do you think?
Yeah, this one is tough for me. I'm kind of like, I'm two ways about it. Because on the one hand, I feel like, all right, okay, I don't necessarily think you have to go to church to have a rich Christian faith, necessarily. But I do think it helps. I'll say that. Like, well, let me put it this way. I probably could not have a rich Christian faith if I didn't go to church. Because I'm just, like, kind of lazy. And it, like, helps to have that ritual and have other people help me figure that out. The second bit, though, do you feel that something other than this institutional church can count as church, like hiking or volunteering? In that case, I'm kind of inclined to say no, but only because I don't know why you would want them to count as church. Like, why can't they just be like hiking or volunteering? And maybe there's kind of a spiritual dimension to that or something. But yeah, maybe I'm just too Catholic, but I guess I don't know why you would want them to be church. But I don't know. How do you feel about it, Matt?
Yeah, I think I feel really, I feel similar. I go to a really liturgical Protestant church. It's a Methodist church that is pretending that it's an Anglican church a lot. And I do like that about it. And I think that what you said is right. I feel like I'm kind of lazy. And, like, I'm not going to read the Bible, for sure. But, like, if I go to church and someone reads it to me, that's great. I'm very into that. And that's probably the best way for me to get through it. So I guess, like, I don't know. I wouldn't have as rich of a Christian faith if I didn't go to church, even though I disagree with my church on, like, I think a lot of things. But I don't know. I think that would be my answer. I don't really, I'm also with you on the other part of, like, does it have to be an institutional or /literal church to count as church? I don't know why you'd want it to be. But on the other hand, like, I think of, I don't know, we did the episode with the Friendly Fire folks a while back where they're like, we meet and have this, like, sort of, like, interfaith worship. And I think that's not a literal church, nor is it institutional church. But I think it kind of counts as church in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to ask them what they think about it. Because on the one hand, maybe it does count as church. On the other hand, maybe it's kind of like a parachurch, just worship gathering or something, I don't really know what they would say about that. Yeah,
and maybe that's also very good.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's better than church, who knows?
Yeah, and it's also the case that people get together for worship in contexts that are not church, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess as a Catholic, I should say, also Catholics have different reasons for going to church, because you got to get that Jesus body, can't get that home. Yeah. But that's a different situation.
Yeah, for us, just, like, got to get that great Hawaiian bread and Welch's grape juice.
You got to get the word.
That's right. Neat. Hey, look we're doing these questions.
We're getting through them like real theologians.
2019, we're bearing that fruit. All right, so here's a real big question that I really, I guess I appreciate. I don't know how to answer. So the question is just this. So, Peter Rollins? Yes? No? Or meh? So maybe you say who Peter Rollins is first, and then we can say what we feel like about that person.
Okay. So Peter Rollins is he is an author from Ireland. He writes on a number of things, but he writes a lot of stuff on, like, church and Christian identity, and he's got this whole project called theology, and he's influenced by a number of kind of interesting people, but also problematic people like Slavoj Žižek or Jean-Luc Marion or Caputo or other people like that. So he's kind of in the like nebulous world of postmodern theology stuff, but, like, as applied to Christian identity. He does some, like, storytelling stuff. Is that a good intro?
Yeah.
What else could you say about it? Yeah, okay. He's got this whole thing about how, like, Christians should, like, leave their identities kind of at the door and, like, experience the trauma of sort of being together, or, like, the trauma of some kind of Christian reality or non-reality, probably more more explicitly.
Yeah. So for me, it's a hard meh. I don't think. I mean, like, whatever is good for you. You do it theology wise, and I mean, if it's bad, I guess, and you shouldn't do it. But Peter Rollins to me seems kind of innocuous, and and whatever. I don't know. I don't have any strong feelings about him. I remember I've like read some blog posts by him, and I've definitely watched some videos. He kind of has like I don't know, he does kind of have like a postmodern Rob Bell feel to him, like, but more serious.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let me say this. Okay, so I've met Peter Rollins a handful of times, and every time I've met him,
really?
Yeah, he's been very nice and kind. So
that's good.
I want to say that. But also, theoretically or ideologically or theologically or whatever, I have a few sort of hang-ups, I guess. There are two. So one hang-up is that he has this sort of sense in which theology is always kind of a traumatic experience, or always leaves you like kind of grasping around in this void of like not really knowing. And I think that like there are times in life when that is true, and it's important to like sit with them with those times and like give them their full due. But I don't actually think that's the full extent of Christianity. Actually, like, it's okay to sometimes just feel fine with it. Like, not every minute of your religious identity or waking life has to be like an experience of trauma. And I think there's something kind of unhealthy about like fetishizing that like existential crisis moment. So that's one side of it. And the other side is I feel like he often reads really radical thinkers and tries to translate them, but he leaves their political radicalism at the door for reasons that are not clear to me. Like, I've got my problems with Slavoj Žižek, but if you're going to draw from him to create a theology, like, at least be a communist of some kind or other. So that's the other side of it, is like sometimes I feel like he sounds very radical because he's saying theoretically radical things, but in terms of like actual kind of, you know, material radicalism, like where the rubber meets the road, it seems kind of thin to me, or at least underdeveloped or something. I'm trying to be charitable here, but I think it's a big problem.
Yeah. Okay, so the take I'm hearing is that Peter Rollins should be a communist? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's my take on everyone, but specifically on Peter Rollins, because he reads communists and then tries to like repackage them for evangelicals.
Right. There's also something that kind of rubs me the wrong way, too, about the Christianity is so, like, super edgy.
Yeah.
It leaves you traumatized. And I agree, like, it definitely can be the case. But also, like, I don't know, whenever I think of people who, like, really practice Christianity, like, really well, I always think about monks, which is, I don't know, maybe just, like, another type of fetishization of, like, a different type of cultural form or something. But it's, like, monks are people who are just, like, really good at Christianity because, like, all they do is Christianity and, like, that's it. And, like, if they can't not, like, you have to go to prayer and, like, someone's going to wake you up or whatever to go. And to me, I think what is so interesting about that type of faith is that it is, like, utterly boring in the sense that you just, like, live with it from day to day. And you kind of just, like, figure it out over time. And it's not, like, a traumatic break after emotional experience. And it's just, like, this is the practice and this is what you do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually, especially because, like, if you talk to a lot of monks, I mean, it isn't a flat experience, right? I mean, they have their sort of moments of traumatic experience or, like, existential crisis within the routine of all the practice. But it's because it's couched within, like, a long routine and narrative that it also is kind of given full force in some ways. And, yeah, I don't know. I just think, like, there's something really dangerous about basically kind of pressuring yourself to always live on that edge, like the edge of being like, my faith is so kind of, I don't know, like in the void or whatever. And I guess I also kind of say that as somebody who was like way into a certain expression of that at a certain point. And now I'm kind of, maybe, I don't know, I want to say grown out of it, but that feels like condescending. So I don't want to put it that way, but that is how it worked out in my own life.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people worse than Peter Rollins for sure.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I don't know. I guess like the person who wrote this question to us, I just want to be like, if Peter Rollins is someone that speaks to you, like, then just that's cool. Like,
yeah.
I don't have any like, I just don't have any like strong reservations. That's just like, you know, this is all I have to say about it.
Yeah, fair.
So I don't know. I'll just say meh for me. For me, he's a meh, but maybe for you, he's a yes, and that's cool too.
Yeah, all right. Well, here's a related question, kind of in the same orbit, I know. Can leftist Christianities be informed by radical death of God theologies or vice versa? What do you think about that?
So, okay, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing here, or that I have any idea what death of God theologies are. So, okay, Altazar, right? That guy. That's the dude.
Yep.
He's one of them.
He just died
so
recently.
Right, yeah, and also Zizek, right? So he's interested in this for really other weird reasons. So death of God theology is a type of theology that's like, okay, Jesus died, and now God is also dead, and has been sublimated into something else. Is that's maybe the Zizek take, huh?
Yeah,
the Hegelian part.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a Hegelian sort of reading of theology on its own terms. Like Altizer has that, and so do a number of others, Hamilton and Van Buren and other Death of God people. Yeah, that sounds right to me. But it has an affinity even with kind of the Rollins thing we were just talking about, because the death of God is a very traumatic sort of experience in like world history and also in individual life.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So can Christianity be informed by radical death of God theologies or vice versa? Like I guess they could. mine's not, and I don't really actually find that type of theology super interesting. Maybe I don't know enough about it or something. But it's not. I don't know. Doesn't seem like something that really appeals to me, and I haven't really thought about it. And if it informs your leftist Christian practice or whatever, that's cool too.
Yeah. yeah. That's a very good middling Matt Bernico take that I appreciate a lot.
Yeah, it's good, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
I like it. I guess I would echo pretty much everything you said. I would add one other thing, just to say, can leftist Christianities be informed by radical death of God theologies? Like, yeah, they probably can, and vice versa. But the real question, I think, is, are they always informed? Like, are death of God theology specifically always informed by kind of leftist politics? And I think in that situation, the answer is no, they're not always. And that is just like an interesting question to ask. Like sometimes death of God theologians sound really radical, especially if like you grew up in a, tradition that is conservative, or a Christian experience that is conservative, or even like a liberal Christian experience for that matter, I suppose. And there's something to be said about like upsetting the sort of theological discourse of the time, no doubt about that. But at the same time, if it doesn't translate into, again, like some kind of material program, I guess my question is always like, how radical is the radical theology really? Which isn't to say that it can't be, just to say that I don't always know when people talk about it. That's all.
Yeah. Also, okay, so this is, so we're mainly talking about theology and philosophy here, but here's the rhetorical take. Death of God theologies are really hard for me to get behind. So, okay, let me preface this too. My exposure to them is like very limited. That's like usually people that I talked to on Reddit a long time ago were very into it. And again, cool. But I guess for me, the hardest part is always just like, can you, like, if you like Death of God theology and you find something really meaningful in it, that's cool. And if you still think that you can find like it's still worth like calling yourself a Christian and kind of grouping yourself in with other people, then like that's fine too, I guess. But it's just like you're gonna have such a hard time talking to other people.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
And I don't mean that like I don't mean that like like a weird. I'm not trying to be mean, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it's just like, how do you talk about your theology with somebody? Like, how could you go to a small group at a church, right? And be like, hey, yeah, I believe in God. I'm a Christian. But I should also mention that I believe God's dead and has been sublated into the Holy Spirit. And also, like, read this book by Zizek. Like, everyone's going to be like, who are you? So for me, I just wonder if it's like, is it really a difference that makes a difference in Christianity? Or is it just something that is like a cool theological sort of paradigm?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. So
I don't know. Again, like if it's your thing, like that's cool for me. It's just not my thing, and I'd be really confused. A lot of people that like go to my church, if you like showed up, they'd be very confused by you, and I think that's fine. Like, come to my church. I don't think anyone would send you away or something, but like it's just a hard thing to set yourself up with.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here's the next question. This one's, I think, an interesting one. And this person's been interacting with us on Twitter, and they've been very pleasant. So there, I'll say that. I also think that this is the person I officially censored last week. So whatever. Finally coming around. So anyways, the question is: if Christians who are on the left don't identify as socialist and/or find it philosophically difficult to assent to secular socialism, are they deemed lackluster Christians by Christian socialists?
That's a good question. So maybe to pick this apart a little bit. So the question is kind of like, if you're a Christian and you think you're on the left, but you're not a socialist, Are you less
Yeah.
of a Christian from the perspective of a Christian socialist? Okay. I would say you're not less of a Christian, per se. Like, I don't think that your Christianity is necessarily... I wouldn't want to judge somebody's Christianity based on their political leaning, specifically, or their
Right.
program.
There's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to do that. Like, for example, there are Christians who are, doing... there are Christian logics that motivate certain types of racism and certain types of sexism, and I would want to make sure that Christians don't get away with that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that angle at it. That is very important.
Yeah.
I was thinking
think
the other...
about it now.
Yeah, we'll have to. I was thinking of it in the other direction of like, well, a lot of people that are very good Christians are still not socialists. Like, I don't know, like, whatever. Lots of saints, pretty much all of them are not socialists, but they're still Christians.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think that what I would say to this question is that you're not like a lackluster Christian. I mean, I don't know what type of Christian you'd be, but you'd be less of a leftist Christian. I don't know.
Lackluster
Like, your
leftist
politics
Christian.
would just be different. Like, if you were so if you're a Christian and you're on the left, like, so say like you're a social democrat, it just means you're less of a socialist than Christians who are socialists.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that I found a way to answer this question without saying anything important.
Yeah, I do think that's something though. Okay, we could say something a little stronger though. All right, we're not gonna consign you to the hell that we don't believe in by you not being a socialist. That being said, we will say that your politics are probably bad if you're not. Like, are you a Christian on the left and you don't identify as a socialist? Well, then, like, what are you? A capitalist? Well, then you're not on the left. At least not on the left in any meaningful sense that I would want to, like, call you a comrade or something. Like, I'll like, sing next to you at church or whatever.
Okay. I don't find that super, super wrong. I don't know. It's how big is the left, or what does it mean to be on the left in a meaningful way? I think that this question is really interesting to me because I think that this is actually most people I go to church with.
Right.
People who are social democrats or just like liberals or centrists, I think, who are Christians, who I definitely believe are really good Christians. And some of them might even consider themselves, somewhere between being a democratic socialist and a social democrat or something. And those are people I really actually trust and I think look up to about Christianity, but they are definitely people who I wouldn't ask their opinion on politics because, I don't know, I wouldn't be very interested in that.
Yeah, exactly. That's an important distinction. And you have to find a way of hanging out with people that you don't agree with politically, because you should live a life that isn't just crabby all the time.
Yeah, you should live. I mean, like, or here's another example, right? So there's this guy that I go to church with, and he is an older gentleman, and I think amazing because he's never been cynical a day in his life.
That's awesome.
But also he's a Christian, but his academic career has been on reading the Quran as like a Christian. It's super interesting. He's written books about the Quran. He's a great guy. But he's not like a socialist, but like he knows that I am, and he tries really hard to have conversations with me a lot. And he's always dropping off like clippings from newspapers and magazines that are about like Bernie Sanders. And like, I really appreciate it. Not because like I like Bernie Sanders, but because like he's making the effort to talk to me about it, and that's nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Nice to have
like,
thoughtful relationships for sure.
Yeah. So you can still have thoughtful relationships with people you don't agree with politically. There, I guess that's a good take.
Yeah, that is. Wow, we're really becoming better people 100 episodes in.
Oh man. There's no hell, and you should be friends with people. It's cool.
Yeah, very good takes. All right, let me throw this one toward you. Now that we're talking about cynicism being better people, how do you wrestle with and make sense of your more conservative religious days? Do you still hold lessons that you've learned from back in the day?
I've been thinking about this one long and hard, and I don't like to think about that part of my life, I guess. I don't know. Man, how do you wrestle with it? I think I mostly ignore it. Is like putting a huge part of your life in the closet and ignoring it for a long time wrestling? Because if so, I am the heavyweight champion.
Yeah, it's a really long match.
Yeah.
You will lose, though.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know. I think that I don't know how I make sense of those days, I guess, honestly. It's just like I think a lot of those like weird internal and existential fears I had from those days always creep back up in a lot of different ways. Like I don't know, like being afraid, like what if you die and like you actually go to hell, or like you get possessed by a demon, or something like wild like that. I don't know. Sometimes, or even like all of the really bad sort of like social stuff that goes along with it, like where I've had to completely try to readjust the way I think about like LGBT people or women or something like that too. Where those I mean, the sedimentation of very conservative religious upbringing, I think, have had an effect on my brain that I had to kind of like unpack. Though, okay, here's one positive thing. Maybe here's the one lesson that I still hold that I've learned from back in the day. It's a dumb one. Okay, so I remember when I was pretty like a tween even. I had a paper route, and I was really good at it. Got a lot of tips. It was really good. Delivered the newspaper, and I would listen to like this MP3 player as I went on my paper route, and I would listen to like a lot of secular music, even though my parents didn't really know that I was listening to secular music. And I remember like over analyzing each song I listened to, and trying to find like some kind of good Christian meaning that I could pull out of it, so I could just find something that was like edifying, even in like the trash of the world or whatever. And even though that is like really embarrassing to say now and is like very silly, I think that like that over analysis actually was a really good it was just a really good sort of like mental exercise for me, because that's I think what I've made my academic career out of now, is trying to pull out some the themes of some type of cultural production by overthinking it. So that's been a good thing. Christian culture at least made me very good at pulling meaning and interpreting texts.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was actually thinking the same exact thing. That conservatism is really bad for a lot of reasons, and it creates a lot of pathologies that I still haven't really exercised completely. But well, for me, it was more kind of like a critical hermeneutics. I think because the conservatism that I was part of was suspicious of secular culture, but also like weirdly suspicious of yourself and your own kind of readings of like biblical texts or whatever. So you'd be constantly poring over it and rereading it and trying to make sure you're not doing any eisegesis, right? Like reading yourself into the text. And I think that's a really bad way to understand texts. But to this day now, like when I read books, not just academic books, but like political books, or I'm trying to like understand Marx or something, I think that I've actually somehow like weirdly carried on some like strange reading habits that are actually very useful, like trying to read a text on its own terms and like really trying to intuitively sort of bracket certain interpretive apparatuses as far as you are able, and like that is actually genuinely useful to me in my life, and probably I wouldn't have had it without like reading the Bible 3 or 4 times when I was in high school or something, which is also very strange. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of really good friends from back then who are not like conservative anymore. That's probably the best thing that I got out of it.
Yeah, that's nice too. Oh, okay. I haven't talked to anyone from the church I grew up in a long time.
Oh, really?
Ugh. Yeah, probably for the best.
Probably. We interviewed one of my friends here, Blair Bullen. So
yeah,
that's
cool.
Some good ones.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so the conservative religious days mean, I think, lots of like deprogramming your own brain and introspection about your biases that you've built up. But also, I guess it makes you maybe a good reader, or it could.
Yeah, I'll say this too. One thing that I would like to learn but have not learned, I'll say this. It's a lesson that I know that I should learn, but I'm resistant to do it. Is that like there was a time in my life when I thought a lot of very bad things, and because a lot of people are really patient, I don't think those things anymore. And that is a lesson that I wish that I learned better now already in my life, that like you should actually be patient with people who have really, really, naive opinions or something, because, there was a time in my life when I didn't have anything good to say about a lot of important things, and just thanks to a lot of people who like didn't write me off, that I ended up not in that position anymore. So that's a lesson that I have not learned but would like to learn sometime soon.
That's fun. Oh man, what about this though? Okay, so something that maybe it was an energy or an impulse from like sort of conservative upbringing that I've had to transform in a good way, I think is like in conservative evangelicalism, like you have to be a radical to actually be serious about it.
Yeah, that's right. So it's committing.
Like, yeah, you have to commit. You have to take it like super seriously. You have to like kind of buy into this whole language and sort of system of values, and you have to be like a cultural warrior for those things. And I mean, like I don't know I don't know how you could go through being an evangelical and like not come out as like a really rabid communist on the other end, because it's just like you've had such a long time practicing being like completely obtuse and adversarial about culture for such a long time. Like you just got to repurpose those energies in a different direction.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I will say being an evangelical is what made me an anarchist for sure. Because the premise was like, well, this is what the Bible says. Like, God doesn't really seem that like psyched about Israel having a state, and like Jesus doesn't really seem that pumped about Rome having a state either. And if you took the Bible really seriously, then maybe you wouldn't be so excited about the state yourself. So there was
totally
that. Yeah, like I became an anarchist not because of like worker struggles or something, but definitely because I read like Jacques Ellul once.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it.
That's the way out. Anarchism is the back door to evangelical.
It really is, I think, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. Tell your evangelical friends about how bad the state is. And then tell them about how good it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the third move once you've gotten out a few steps down the road.
Anarchism is the back door to evangelicalism, and communism is the front door back into like Catholicism. Or
it
like,
was in my case.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll have to come out in therapy maybe later or something. But,
yeah, right, that's true.
Here's the last question that I'm really not excited about answering. To filioque or not to filioque?
Oh, no.
Does the Holy Spirit proceed from the Father and the Son, or the Father alone? Oh, boy.
What am I supposed to do with this question?
Answer it in an orthodox way, or else someone will tell someone else in the Catholic hierarchy that you've done wrong, and you'll have to do something about it.
Yeah, well, wouldn't be the first time. The problem is if I answer it in an orthodox way, I'll be wrong. Haha, theology nerd joke.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
Let's see. So whatever. The Pope's supposed to be like your spiritual dad, and he says you should say the Father and the Son. So I guess that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Fine.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I genuinely don't like. I've read a few books about this when I was in my early 20s, and I still am not convinced there's actually that much at stake here. But that's bound to make plenty of folks upset, and that's fine.
Yeah. Man, I know that people care about this, and I know that like an entire church split happened over this, but boy, do I just not understand why it matters to anybody. I mean, I do understand why it matters, because it's about like, which part of the Trinity is like the best or whatever, but
you got the dad god, the baby god, and the windy god.
You ever read the book The Shack? It's kind of like that, right? They all come to your cabin in the woods. One of them brings you presents, I think. Okay, but for real though, have you ever read the book The Shack?
No, I couldn't read that book.
Oh man, my mom gave it to me when I was in college, and I read it, and I gave her a scathing theological critique of it, and she was like, all right, shouldn't have given me this book.
Oh boy. Shout out to all those moms of lefty Christians. It's a hard life.
It's a hard life.
It's a very confusing life. Mom. Yeah, my mom got me Why Marx Was Right one year for Christmas, and she was like, I don't really know what to do with you anymore, so here you go. I was like, thanks, Mom. I really want to read this.
That's nice. One time my mom bought me those Foucault Foucault interviews, the Power of Knowledge ones.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I asked her to, so that's why. But appreciate that good gift.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right. Is that all the theology questions? Do we have any others that we've got to?
No, man, that's it. That's all of them, huh?
Well, I guess that's theology. That's why we don't do it.
That is why we don't do it. All right. Here's one more Reddit question to send us off into the end of the show. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. It's a very long one, so I'm not going to read it all. But here it goes. So, Dean, this is the deal. A friend of mine is a Wiccan. They spelled the Wiccan wrong. They spelled it Wicken. And then right after they said Wiccan, they said, I don't know if that's spelled right or not. So anyways, let me start over. A friend of mine is a Wiccan, but they offered to do a spell for me. I accepted, but I'm kind of worried that I accepted now because I don't know if it would be a sin or not. So they have this long backstory about this person, the friend who's a Wiccan, and they want to do a spell for them. So Dean, what do you think? Is this can Christians accept spells done by Wiccan friends?
Well, it depends. Is this their wizardy ways coming out? That's the real question I would ask. And can you do a prayer that is also a spell for them? Maybe there could be a mutual transaction here.
Yeah, they don't really say what the spell is for, and to me that could be a deal breaker, right? If it's like, if it's going to make you really muscular and strong, then yeah, I think it's probably fine.
Yeah, but if it's going to give you, like, diarrhea, no thanks.
Ooh, no, I would say no to that one.
A lot of prayer time, though, with that spell.
That's... So, I mean, think about it that way, though. If you were going to have a sort of a poop time, you could pray during all of that, and it's like the spell did that for you.
Yeah, there's always a bright side to every spell.
That is true. Yeah. One of the comments just says, "Hi there, your friend sounds nice. If you're a Christian, you should stay away from witchcraft no matter how it's presented." I don't know, honestly, man. Just let your friend be nice to you, I think, is the best way to go about this.
Yeah, that's good. A lot of Christians cast spells, especially back in the weird old Renaissance time. That was almost my master's thesis, was about how all these Christians were casting weirdo spells.
What kind of spells?
Crazy ones, man. They were just they were after so much weird stuff. Alchemy, it's a wild thing.
All right, well, it's fine with me. Hey, if it's like I think spells, like Death of God theology, like Peter Rollins, if it's like cool for you and you're like kind of into it and getting something good out of it, I think just go for it. But also, you should probably think about socialism a little bit more. That's sort of my hot take. All right,
I think that's our basic theology take. I don't know. Does it hurt your feelings? Oh, get rid of it. Doesn't hurt your feelings? Fine. That's okay. Well, anyway, are you going to be at that strike or what?
You should also be nice to your mom. All right. Hey, thanks for listening to episode 100 of the Magnificast. It's been a really good one. If you didn't like this episode, sorry, this one's for us. It's the Big 100, and it's our episode.
We found this one in.
Yeah. So if you didn't like it, though, we'll be back. We'll be back on our regular bullshit next week when we do something completely different. Hey, so anyways, thanks for supporting us this whole time and being cool on Twitter to us. We got so many good Twitter followers, and there's like a very fun community around the show. And I like you all, and you're all very good. And be nice to your mom and be nice to other people. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/themagnificast. You can also buy stickers and t-shirts on our store on Redbubble. I don't know what the URL for that one is, but you could probably find it yourself. Just go to Redbubble and search The Magnificast. Cool. Anything else we should say, Dean, or is that good?
No, it's good. They're plowing the driveway right outside my window, so this is the perfect time to end.
Oh, sweet. All right, see you next time.
I don't wanna get up for church in the morning, souls alive. Heaven come to earth and there won't be no church. We'll meet down by the riverside. There we'll swim with all creation. Never get tired, never bored. Don't worry, someday there'll be no dam between us and our Lord.